Hey guys, it's been a little bit and I had to fight off some other responsibilities, but I'm back to share another video with you guys and kind of wanted to talk about my experience so far with the newer catalyst build I've been trying, namely Spear Catalyst. I think some of you that probably watched my last video will recall that I'm slowly moving away from Necromancer as that's been the class I've been playing for, however many years it's been at this point, and after my little 5-year hiatus and return to Guild Wars 2 now, I really wanted to take the time to start learning some other classes because being a one-trick pony can only be fun for so long. So I started messing around with Tempest during the push beta, and while I really enjoyed Tempest, it kind of wasn't necessarily my playstyle. Moving away from Necro to a class that does side noting is definitely like a really big swap, which, I kind of still like being super relevant in team fights. And I think that Spear Kata has really found that middle ground for me where I can plus one side nodes and even contest some of them in 1v1s, but I also have a huge impact in team fights with all the AoE. The damage is really high, the boon uptime is good, the sustain's reasonable, and honestly, the team buffs that you can get if people actually stand in your etchings is actually quite good. For instance, the earth etching lasts about 7 seconds, and if your team is able to stand in it, it pulses stability basically every second that it's active. And the same goes for the other attunements as well, pulsing might, regeneration, and swiftness for fire, water, and air, respectively. So, taking a look at the gear setup here, we're just running a standard power DPS setup. I don't think there's too much worth explaining here in terms of gear because most of it's pretty standard across builds these days. And over on the trade side, we're doing a lightning rod air setup for Catalyst. Now, the spear does have access to quite a few CCs that can proc lightning rod, which is the reason that we take this. You have water 4, you have air 5, air 3, and all of these can be reset and they all proc lightning rod when they hit an enemy. The Catalyst trait line will just be taking everything in relation to elemental empowerment. You'll get stacks from doing disables as well as dodging and evading attacks. You'll have an evade on Water Spear 3, which is insanely useful. You'll have your dodge rolls with high vigor uptime. All of this will help you get stacks, and the all stats will give you a bit more damage, healing, tankiness, everything across the board, which is great for this type of build. Now, one thing to keep in mind with Spear Catalyst, and it differs a little bit from some of the other Catalyst builds, is you don't actually build your augment sphere quite as frequently as other builds. And oftentimes I find myself mostly wanting the augment sphere for water. You'll notice that with soothing water on my heal bar, if you augment that using the water sphere, you'll get a 20% CDR on it. And that's typically what I end up using my energy for. I don't often use the attunements for other spheres as I can get any necessary blast field for any attunement by using my Spear 5. This skill will already pulse heal you 5 times and remove 5 conditions across the duration. So having the 20% CDR knocking it down to a 20-second cooldown is quite good. Now, your other utility skills are very versatile, but I tend to run Armor of Earth, Arcane Wave, and Arcane Shield. Armor of Earth is a super, super useful stab slash stun break. It also gives you a bit of barrier if you pop it based on how many boons you have. So oftentimes if you're mid team fight and you're sitting there rotating through your etchings, you may end up getting a 2 or 3k barrier from the skill. But I mostly enjoy it for the instant stab that it provides as well as the stun break. Much can be said for Arcane Shield as well. Similar thought process. It provides you an instant access to a stun break. It blocks several attacks, which is insanely useful against most of the power builds currently, especially the ones that use projectiles. And when the shield procs, it also grants you a few stacks of stability as well if you take the trait line in Arcane. Now, Arcane Wave kind of leads us into what I would consider to be the primary mechanic of this whole build, and that's going to be the blast finishers. Arcane Wave, you could use it as a movement skill, you can use it as an instant finisher, as it's an instant cast CC that also does around 5 to 6k damage on a crit. But you can also use it to combo with your Jade Spheres or with your etchings to cause auras and other combo effects, which is where a huge part of versatility of this build really comes from. So let's say at the start of a game you're looking to stack swiftness for your team. The first thing you'd want to do is to swap to air attunement. You would drop your Spear 5, which gives you the combo field to use Twister to proc a blast for swiftness, And then you can also use Arcane Wave to proc another set of swiftness. Using the two sets of blast finishers within your Arcane Etching allows you to stack swiftness 3 times. And if you swap the air attunement, you technically get it a fourth time. So right out of the gate, that gives your entire team a stacked 30-second swiftness that you can all utilize to get to wherever you need to go or whatever points you're trying to get to at the start. Now, keep in mind, if you're proccing these blast finishers with Spear 5 or with your Jade Spheres, they also are going to grant you your traditional elemental auras. So if you're doing anything in that swiftness combo within Spear 5, you're also going to proc a shocking aura. And that can be said for the other attunement etchings as well. Fire will still grant fire aura, water frost aura, and earth magnetic aura. Now, the earth etching is just a little bit different on this build as it technically counts as a dark aura. Now, you'll still get the magnetic for about 1 second, but this one will also grant you the dark aura, which gives you the reduced condition damage. Now, your traditional sustain combo in this, alongside with just swapping to water attunement, granting you regen, and spear 5 etching, granting you pulsing healing and regeneration, you're going to take advantage of the water field provided by etching 5. It works much the same as the swiftness, as you can proc it with other blast finishers to grant healing. But if you utilize your spear 3 inside of etching, you will also pulse a heal. So keep that in mind if you're trying to make a quick getaway or need some quick healing in the middle of a fight. You oftentimes are just going to want to drop Spear 5. You're going to want to Spear 3 inside the etching, probably Arcane Wave inside the etching, and then Spear 5 again to proc the wave. Now let's talk a little bit about the elite skill Elemental Celerity. So this elite skill, when popped, effectively resets your entire weapon skill bar of all of its cooldowns, regardless of what they are. Now, this can be absurdly powerful, especially if you have proper burst rotations, or if you need to do a sustained rotation, or you're trying to rotate crowd control on somebody. I think a good use case idea is oftentimes at the start of a game, depending on the map, I will engage in fire. I will fire 5, 3, 4, 2, and then proc eruption on fire 5 again. Then you can elemental celerity and effectively repeat the rotation, and depending on the enemy team's positioning and your aim, you can often one shot numerous people at once. And something to keep in mind is your Spear 3 on every attunement grants you a large effect that you should really coordinate what you're planning to use that on ahead of time if possible. Knowing when to use your Spear 3 on which attunement can also grant you a huge damage increase, and as another reason why this build ends up being so absurdly flexible. But this is what I've really been enjoying playing for like the past week or so in my downtime. I turned this into a little bit more of a guide than I planned to, but hopefully you'll give this build a try. I really think it's a lot of fun. It can be a little daunting and frustrating to learn at first. They weren't kidding when they talk about the meme about Ellie being in permanent downstate. Elementalist is very unforgiving when you don't know what the class does entirely. You really have to put some time in and like read the abilities and really feel out the rotations. I had to redo my hotkeys several times and move my attunement hotkeys around. It was like a whole ordeal for like the first 2 days. It was rough. But now that I'm getting a lot more comfortable in the class, I have to say that Elementalist has been a lot of fun, and it may be making its way to being one of my favorite classes. I think one of the only ones left that I still really want to try is Engineer because I'm super interested in Hollowsmith. But after playing Necromancer for so long and really coming to a class that has what I feel to be a higher APM, there's more movement and mobility skills. There's a little bit more versatility in a lot of cases. And frankly, it feels good to finally be able to play a lot more power builds outside of Power Harbinger. But that's all I got for you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, as it helps me make more videos and get noticed by the algorithm. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your week. Take care, everybody.